Hello and welcome to Matchday Live. Chelsea host Crystal Palace in the Premier League, the final game before an international break, and we are joined, as always, by Jason Cundy, Savage Dan, and making a Premier League debut this afternoon. Is it the afternoon yet? Not quite. Abby McCarthy. How are we, team? We good?
Very good.
Yes.
Very good.
Jace, I'll come to you first then, mate, because we had a little chat about this off air beforehand, because nice early start for you this morning, mate. But final one before the international breaks. Psychologically, how important is it to head into that international break with a win?
I mean, it's a long 2 weeks, isn't it? If you come off the back of a bad result, a bad performance, and the squad and Frank will have to sit with that if it is a bad result performance. Look, we haven't got off to the best of starts. I'm yet to see a really good, solid Chelsea performance over 90 minutes. If we pick up 3 points today, it makes things so much easier going into this international break. So, yeah, I wouldn't say it's a must-win, but it's starting to feel like we need to get 3 points again after the first day of the season.
Dan, it's like Jason pointed out there, it's not a must-win, but heading into the international break with 7 points, if you do win, because obviously the first game of the weekend will go up to fourth in the table, that's psychologically ahead of anything else. That looks a lot better and a lot nicer on the sheet because, we've not played poorly, but perhaps not got the results that our performances have deserved so far.
Yeah, we've been able to put together, 20 or 30 minutes of a good performance or even a half against West Brom. But we're yet to really put in a real shift and have a big performance. I think we're due one. Going into an international break, you definitely want, even 7 points from 4 games isn't fantastic, but it's certainly better than 4 or 5 points. So, yeah, it's not must win, but it kind of is must win at the same time.
Yeah.
Abby, it's difficult, isn't it? Because obviously today, a few months back, even a couple of weeks ago, there was slight murmurs and people having their fingers crossed that we might have fans back in the ground today, But it is still a London derby. The weather doesn't look great, but this game means a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. As Dan said, it kind of is a must-win. I feel like we've been a little bit shaky at points. There's definitely been positives to take away, but I think if we win today's game, the whole team's going to be happy, and I think it puts us in a really good position for the rest of the season. Yeah, let's just hope this rain doesn't dampen the game too much.
We know what it's like as fans, don't we, going that whole period over the international break, waiting for the next game. So if that's how we feel, that's exactly how the players and the manager must feel.
I think everyone but Jason Cundy is happy with a break because Jason's getting wet today is horrible. But this is where we see how we actually get on because it's time to play our Play Predictor game. If you haven't had a go at this yet, make sure you do get involved because there are some amazing prizes. All you need to do is head to the Play Predictor section on the Fifth Stand app and predict how you think the game will pan out. So you'll score points for how close you get to correct results. Prizes will be given to the highest scoring player each week. And also, as well as each week, you'll get monthly winners. Last week was the end of September. So we saw Phil from the UK pick up a £500 Megastore voucher and signed merchandise bundle for coming top of the table in September. 219 points. That's the kind of bar that we're setting early on in the season. So if you want to get involved with this, make sure you do, because not only monthly prizely winners, we've got an overall season champion that will win a VIP matchday experience, flights, accommodation, and a signed merchandise bundle for 2 people. So this is huge. All the T's and C's, as always, on the Fifth Stand. It closes at 11:30, so you haven't got long. Go and get that done now while we tell you what we have gone for today. And here it is. So I have gone for 3-1. Abby, you've also gone 3-1. Jason and Dan both gone 2-1. So Abby, I'll come to you first because I want a bit of positivity. 3-1 today.
Yeah, I've gone in confident and positive. I think we are going to bounce back from the midweek result, and I think the team are really going to want to win today. And I think, I can see Timo scoring today, Turbo Timo. I've seen that Pulisic is back in training. Maybe he'll make an appearance too. So I think we will see some beautiful Chelsea goals. But I still think, we might not keep a clean sheet just because defensively it hasn't entirely clicked yet. So yeah, I've put one down for Palace just because they are killer on the counter-attack. That's what I'm most worried about today. But I do think we're going to get a win, right? Fingers crossed.
we're all confident in that aspect. Dan, I wonder if perhaps the conditions will play a little bit of a part. You've gone 2-1 today. Are you factoring that in or not?
Not really. I'm factoring the fact that it's a London derby, it's Crystal Palace. Even a fully fit and at the races Chelsea team wouldn't usually win this 4-0. This is always a tough game. So I think that the kind of wet surface might help us even. We've got Jorginho, we've got quick players, the ball will zip off the surface. We just have to bear in mind that it's a real game. It's a proper derby there. So I expect to win. I expect to concede. I feel like we're getting a little bit closer to our full team, having Pulisic back, having Chilwell starting, who we think is going to be our first choice left back. So, yeah, 2-1 just seemed safe for me. Still a win, but just a tough one.
Jay, you've gone likewise. I mean, does it feel... I know that the stadium's empty and everything like that. Did it feel like a London derby? Is that why you've gone quite cautious today?
Not really. I mean, it is a London derby. Of course it is. But, even every game I come here, I'm never going to get used to it. You kind of forget that there's a Premier League game about to take place. Now, when the game starts, of course, we'll get wrapped up into it. But Palace are tough. They're very well organised. Roy Hodgson is tactically very astute when it comes to making sure teams stay solid. They'll come in. They'll take a point now. And I expect them to do something similar to what they did against Manchester United. Look to catch us on the counter-attack. I think they'll have a bit too much for them. But I was on the way in thinking about what this game could end up being. And it could be anything. It could be a draw. They could snatch it as they did at United. We could end up beating them. So, but I've gone for a slender victory. I think it'll be tight. I think we'll have too much for them, but I think we'll also concede.
Abby and Dan, you've both alluded to the fact already. We've seen it in the week. Frank Lampard obviously confirmed as well. Christian Pulisic back in training. We believe he'll be in the squad today as well. Jay, how much of a bonus, because that is our hot topic one, is talking about Christian Pulisic being back. How much of a bonus is it to have him available for selection again? And once he's fit and firing, we've seen how important he can be.
Absolutely. We yet to see Frank's best 11. He's going to be very much part of that. Ziyech is another one that we saw last season, how he got off to a slow start, if you remember this time last year. Frank took him in, took him out. He scored that hat-trick away at Burnley. And then after that, he just seemed to get better and better. His pace, his energy, we've missed that. And if he is on the bench today, that's another addition that we can just, if things are tight, perhaps come on and change it.
Dan, that's another thing, isn't it? Because he's back involved in the squad. We don't know if he's going to start or if he's going to make an impact off the bench. But if he is a player that Frank, perhaps like we've seen with Chilwell and other players, to ease their way back into the squad, to have his explosiveness coming off the bench at any point during a game, especially in a game where, like Jason's already said, that the surface is a bit slippy and you've got players that balls that will be skidding through. To bring someone on like Christian Pulisic make a huge difference. Yeah,
it's a nightmare for Crystal Palace to see him coming on with 30 minutes to go. It's weird because I'm used to always, in years before, seeing players almost rush back. If it's your best players, you kind of rush them back. You want them back as fast as you can. But now, because of repeated injuries, Chelsea and loads of teams, to be fair, are being very, very careful with how they bring their players back into the team. So he is very explosive, but obviously that has its consequences, because it means that, if he's gone, he's 0 to 60 so fast that the hammy can just go. So you do have to be careful. But it is a big lift for us as fans, for the other players on the pitch, knowing that Christian's coming on. It's a big one. And for the Crystal Palace fullbacks, they'll just drop off, as even his presence will make their backline drop off just a little bit, because you've just got to be a bit more careful with him on a pitch.
Abby, I believe you got some comments from the fifth stand about Christian Pulisic's impending return.
Oh, absolutely. He is being showered with love on the app. Elvis W saying, good news, Captain America is back. Samuel O saying Pulisic is back. He's really, really happy. Baraka J just says he can't wait to see him back in action. And I totally agree with that. He's one of those players that's just a joy to watch, isn't he? Because he's kind of got it all. He's got pace, he's got creativity, he's got skill. He's somebody that can create something from nothing. And I think if he does play today, I think, it's going to be an amazing one to see. John P backs me up. He said, always exciting when he's on the ball. Salah saying, how I've missed this guy. Pulisic will put it on a plate for Turbo Timo. I can see that. That could be a killer partnership, couldn't it? And Hassad is buzzing as well, and so many more. I mean, Pulisic, if he was hearing this, his ego, big.
Jace, he's one of those, well, because like Abby said, we're all so excited to see him back. All the fans are so excited to see him back. But also, Frank spoke about mentality this week, with Mason stepping up, and he's got players like Thiago Silva as well, that players that add something. I think we do forget because of Christian's age, but when he plays for America, he's got so much pressure on him, and he's required to be a leader. So you bring someone like Christian Pulisic back into the side, you add that element in addition to him being an exceptional footballer, don't you?
I think we forget that there are three players that will have a huge impact in our season that are 21. You know, I mean, Havertz is 21. He's younger than Mason Mount, and of course you just mentioned there Pulisic as well. So we've got those players are very, very young. But of course, if you're good enough, you're old enough. And we see Mason Mount has done. We see what Pulisic has done as well. But you're right. He'll be desperate to get himself back playing, and I can't wait. And if he is on the bench today, then what some ammo we've got there to change the game, as Dan has mentioned there. Tired limbs running when the greasy surface. So fingers crossed.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's not hesitate any longer. We are joined by Ben Andrews live at Stamford Bridge. Ben, I believe you are going to tell us the team lineup for today and answer our questions about Christian Pulisic.
He is on the bench, so he's not starting, but yes, he is on the bench, so that's great news. And he caused Palace no end of bother at their place in that ridiculous 3-2 after we had the restart. We saw 9 changes midweek from Frank for the Tottenham game, but forget that, just thinking Premier League terms, from West Brom, 6 changes, including 4 of the back 5 as well. So we have a debut in the Premier League, at least for Mendy in goal. Azpilicueta is in at right back, though, not at left back. Ben Chilwell starts at left back. It's Thiago and Zuma at the back there. And Jorginho is in for Kovacic and N'Golo Kanté next to him. The 3 behind the forward are Timo Werner, Kai Havertz, and interestingly, Callum Hudson-Odoi. So Mason Mount not playing for the first time this season. So that means Tammy Abraham stays up there. So that means a continuation of that interesting link we saw with Werner coming from the left and there being a centre forward apart from him.
Just on that, Ben, because like you said there, that Abraham and Werner link, we saw how well that worked for us against Barnsley, and I know if we see any of that today, but that link up and those relationships that will develop more and more as the season goes on. We were speaking about, me and Jay were speaking about this before off air. We forget kind of how little time the team has been together. So game by game, that is a partnership that we're going to see more and more of, or all of the players linking up, and that's only going to benefit us going forward the more they play together, isn't it?
It is. I thought the Abraham and Havertz thing was a wonderful thing to watch. In terms of it gelling, that was an instant job, wasn't it? With that, every one of the goals Tammy made basically for him, with a run, with a pass, whatever it was. It's going to be Rich Wilson, comms team. Thank you very much. The official team sheet is here, but we had it anyway. Thank you very much. There he is, number 10, Christian Pulisic, back on the bench. Yes, in terms of the relationships growing, absolutely. And Werner from the left seems to be something Frank quite likes. He's actually started more there now than he has as the centre forward. But it's not easy gelling on the job, isn't it? No, look, we're not complaining, are we, about bringing in lots of players. But without pre-season, you're essentially going, here are 5 or 6 really good new players. Quickly, go and gel right now and take points immediately. And in a way, no one's going to be sympathetic towards this outside of this football club, but in a way, it's sort of harder than just having the group that already knew each other that he started with last season.
Absolutely, absolutely. Ben, also, Jay's tucked away up in the posh part, but in the dry, hiding away from the weather. How is it down at pitch side? What's it like?
You know, it's actually barely raining at the moment, and it hasn't been since I left the car park down at Fulham Broadway about an hour ago. It's actually not too. I mean, it is raining, but it's not, ridiculous like it was overnight everywhere, I think, and the whole country seemed to get it. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be slick out there. They're not going to need to get the hoses on, I don't think. But hopefully, Palace won't be digging in here in this first half and just sitting as deep as we fear they might.
Love that. See, absolute pro. Ben, thank you, mate, as always. We will catch up with you in a little while. I will let you go and get ready for commentary, which will, of course, be live on the Fifth Stand right here a little bit later on. Jay, it's one of those games as well, with the lineup now confirmed, that 3 behind Tammy Abraham of Hudson-Odoi, Havertz and Werner. That to me screams pace, and that Frank is looking at Abraham to be a focal point to get players to play off him. That'll be his role today, won't it?
Absolutely. There's enough creativity, enough pace, enough goals up top, and with the pace that we've got out wide with Callum, we've got to move that ball quickly as well, because I feel at times when teams do sit deep, we are a little laboured with our passing. We can take 1 or 2 more touches where is necessary, and I think at times we can be a little bit predictable. What I want to see is get that ball into Callum's feet early. Give him a chance to get in beyond their press or in beyond that midfield 4 they're probably going to do, and see if we can get a 1v1 with the fullbacks. But yeah, look, there's plenty there. That relationship you kind of alluded to there, Joe, with Havertz and Tammy that we saw against Barnsley was something you feel can grow. Werner off the left there. So there's plenty going forward. what I want to see is that midfield, the pivot, if you like. Frank seems to be struggling to get that right at the moment. It's got a little bit of everything. Defensively, we've got to make sure that we cannot get caught on that counter-attack, because I think, Abby's mentioned there, they are excellent at it. And that's what they'll do. They'll play 4-4-2 or 4-5-1, depending where the ball is. They will look to get in beyond our fullbacks. We've got to make sure that midfield does not get bypassed.
Abby, that's exactly what Jason was saying, what you alluded to earlier about players. I mean, I haven't got the Palace team sheet in front of me, but I expect Wilfried Zaha's name to be on there. And he's definitely the danger man for Palace, isn't he? Yeah, absolutely. He's just such a brilliant player, but hopefully we can keep him out today. I'm still sticking with my 3-1, Joe. It's going to happen, right? I'm just speaking it into existence. That's exactly what we want to hear as well. Keep speaking, because I've gone 3-1 as well. So if you're happy, then I'm happy at full time. Dan, Jorginho is going to play a big part today, because we know how good he is at dictating play. We know how much his passing sort of sets the rest of the team up. And on a day like today, where the surface might be nice and skippy for players, and you look at Werner, you look at Hudson-Odoi, that are going to want to get in behind and perhaps play those balls through behind in behind the fullbacks. Someone like him today is going to be key in getting him playing and getting the rest of the team playing around him. Yeah, and I think today he'll see a lot of the ball. I think that Palace will probably sit just off him. I can't really see them pressing really high and trying to press him, because he is a passer, so he will just pop on around the corner, and all of a sudden you're in big trouble. So I think they'll stand off. He needs to move that ball fast for me, whether it's when it's coming back across. Sometimes we do get Callum, one-on-one with someone, and it ends up coming back across. That ball needs to go back across very fast. Keep moving them around. The space will come. He'll have a big part to play today in just moving them around. It could be a long one where we don't see anything for 50, 60 minutes, but we have to be patient, and we just have to be persistent today. Jay, is there any surprises on the team sheet today?
Really? Mate, I don't know how fit Thiago Silva was. Had a bit of a tough opening 45 against West Brom. Didn't play midweek, and maybe has a bit more training under his belt. So maybe Tomori would have started. Glad to see Mendy between the sticks. I think it's the right decision. Maybe Reece at right back. These aren't. I'm looking at screaming that the team would be much different. I like the look of the team, and I like the 10, the area that we've got to get right, as I kind of alluded to a minute ago. That is those two in between the back four and feeding those passes. And Dan's right. Jorginho, move that ball quickly. Sometimes bypass the ball. I think we can sometimes use an extra pass where we don't. Can we get that ball from Jorginho out to Callum instead of going right back? Can we cut out an extra pass when we're moving that ball in the wide areas?
Abby, that's a great point that Jason's making, because even when you look at players that are missing today, that only really underlines how strong the squad is. That you're looking at players that aren't involved, but you're going, well, there's the team that's selected is strong as it is.
Yeah, we're in such an amazing position now, aren't we? That we've got such a full squad with so many different options, and hopefully that means we're going to have a strong squad for every single game. And I'm really happy to see Mendy back in goal as well. So many positives to take away from his debut. I mean, there was that one moment where, he did drop the ball, but some killer saves being made. Also, I thought Kanté was great against West Brom as well. So I'm happy to see him, back on. And I think he's going to be pretty integral to this game too.
Great shout. Let's have a little look at the team then, once again, that Frank Lampard has selected for us this morning/afternoon. It's going to be afternoon when it kicks off, but this early kickoff's thrown everyone, to be fair. In goal for Chelsea today, a Premier League debut for Edouard Mendy, a back four of Cesar Azpilicueta, captains aside. Left back Ben Chilwell making his Premier League debut for Chelsea as well. Thiago Silva and Kurt Zouma. Then N'Golo Kanté, Jorginho, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Kai Havertz, Timo Werner and Tammy Abraham. On the bench for Chelsea today, Kepa Arrizabalaga, Christian Pulisic, Fikayo Tomori, Mateo Kovacic, Olivier Giroud, Mason Mount and Reece James. Right, we've got loads of live team warm-ups from Stamford Bridge coming up shortly after we hear from what the manager had to say at yesterday's pre-match press conference.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Frank.
Hi.
Obviously, we're in the last 4 days of the transfer window now, thank goodness. In your case, it might be more about which players are leaving the club, be it permanently or on loan. How important is it for you to thin out the squad because you can't keep everyone happy, obviously?
I wouldn't call it thinning out the squad. I'm not sure that's the right term, but we do have a big squad. I'm not interested in getting involved in speculation over the last few days of the window, because what I say now will be speculation. So we'll see how that develops over the next few days. Focused on the game tomorrow, and we'll see what movements there may be.
Regarding ones that you may be willing to leave on loan to get some game time, obviously there's young English players who would like to impress Gareth Southgate before the Euros next summer, the likes of Loftus-Cheek, Tomori, Hudson-Odoi. Would you be willing to see those players go out on loan so they're getting more game time?
With every player in the squad, I think if it's a situation of a loan, you have to consider what's best for the player, what's best for the club first and foremost, and then see how it stacks up. So with all those three players, I would always take those things into consideration, but I haven't got an answer for you on any of those three. I have a good relationship with them all and speak honestly with them. Again, that's one that we will broach player by player over the next few days. Once the window shuts, every player that will be here will be used and within our squad, because there's a long season and a lot of competition coming up, and we'll know more on Monday.
Just one final one on the transfer front, because I know you didn't enjoy talking about it, but Antonio Rudiger, is there any latest developments with him?
No more developments.
If we can move on to Mason Mount and how he's sort of coped since Tuesday, because okay, it's not Stuart Pearce in the semi-final of the World Cup, but it's still a tough thing for a young lad to go through. How have the rest of the squad rallied around him and kept his chin up?
Well, everybody would rally around Mason as they would any individual in the team. I've been the penalty misser, I've been the one in the squad where somebody else has missed. I think that's standard, and that's how it is. With Mason, I think Mason's biggest disappointment is the feeling that he may have let his teammates or myself or staff down. It's absolutely the opposite. I think what Mason's done since he's got in, the young boy who's been desperate to play for Chelsea in all his young life, and got in and been fantastic for us over the last 18 months, and missing a penalty in a round of the Carabao Cup to get knocked out is par for the course of someone of Mason's young talent that will go on to play in many a game as important, more important, have critical inputs into games, much more important. And I'm not trying to belittle the game, but I'm just talking about how his career is going to go. So he's supported by everybody at the club, and we all move on.
One more, please, Jamie.
Just one final question from me, if you don't mind. Sorry, just one final one. I'm conscious I've already asked you about the handball situation this week, but I'm going to ask you about it again, because we've now had clarification that the Eric Dyer incident last Sunday would still be considered a handball, because as soon as your arm goes above your shoulder, that's automatically a handball. It's in the laws of the game. Do we need to just strip the laws right back and say, was it deliberate? Did you get an advantage from it? Have they become way too complicated now?
I think with handball, unfortunately, you won't be able to distinguish what's deliberate or not. There's a grey area, a natural grey area, and I think that's tough. So I think it's more seeing now how the new, the slight amendment and how the referees put that into practice. We need to give that some time. It felt a healthy change when I read it, and let's see how it works in real time, because it's not also easy for the referees. It's a difficult rule to have a clinical decision on in those sort of in-between moments of natural positions and jumping and all those things. So we'll see.
John Southall, 5 Live.
Hi, Frank.
Hi, John.
How important is this game with Palace, given obviously what happened at West Brom, Tottenham, just to try and kickstart things for you?
It's important, John, but as important as every game is. I know that's slightly a cliched answer, but I think we've started the season here. We've gone and won at Brighton, which was a tough game. I think they've shown that in their form in that game, and since then we lost to the champions with 10 men for 45 minutes when it was 0-0. And then at West Brom, of course, the first 30 minutes, 3 clear mistakes make goals, and normally you lose those games. We managed to get a point. So I think there's certainly some clear perspective needs to go into our first 3 games. But of course we want to win the game against Palace, because we want to win games. We want to find that feeling of win, which is absolutely capable of this team. But we're absolutely very early on in the season as a group, with players that are now coming fit, of new signings that will be getting more settled every day that we train together and improve together. So I'm not concerned. We will attack the game with confidence and a real desire to win, and that's what we should do with every game.
And for you, obviously on Tuesday night, I had a few words on the touchline with Jose. As a young manager, is that important for you to try and put down a marker to other managers, or is it just your competitive edge?
No, yeah, it's certainly not a marker. I think on the line, if you look like you are forced and trying to be, I don't know, what might be perceived as arrogant for for what that looks like, or trying to portray a character, I think that sometimes can become maybe not real or maybe boring from the outside. I certainly don't do that. I just react as I see fit in the game. In the competitive nature, sometimes you can reflect and go, was that too much or not? That's fine. I don't think people should expect you to play, to not get caught up in the excitement sometimes, and that was just it. It's no big deal.
Just a word about Roy Hodgson. I suspect you'd be fairly happy, wouldn't you, if you still had that competitive edge, that desire for the game, coaching at the age of 72?
Yeah, absolutely. And when I talk about people putting on character or not, Roy has been an incredibly straight down the line manager, person, coach. His career is something that's beyond exceptional. I've got so much respect for Roy Hodgson in the job he does and the way he carries himself. Don't want to preempt it, but there'll be no touchline spats with me and Roy tomorrow because I've got too much respect for him and think he's just brilliant as a man.
And just the normal question about Pulisic, Ziyech. What's the news on them?
Pulisic is in the squad for tomorrow. He won't start the match because of the injury he's had, and it's been a difficult injury. And I am very keen to get him back in there. So it's great to have him back for himself and for the boost I think it gives the team. He's an important player for us. Hakim Ziyech is getting closer, but not quite fit enough to be on the bench.
Okay, thanks, John. Olivia, PLP.
Hi, Frank.
Hi.
You've played a lot of centre-backs at your time at Chelsea. You've played in teams where you've had a solid centre-back pairing that have played for the majority of the season. Is that something, obviously we saw Zuma and Tomori play in the Carabao Cup, is that something you're looking to do, to find someone to play next to Thiago Silva, or do you think you're going to keep chopping and changing?
I think most coaches would tell you in an ideal world that you can find a pretty settled back two. You also need competition through a season that lasts sort of 60 games. There are not many teams that will say this is our back two for the whole of the season. I think it's impossible in the modern day. But you strive for that, and for that you need a consistency in performance, relationships to build through the season. And last year we had to change a lot, and of course this year there'll be times when it changes a lot. I think when you maybe get far down the line in a project, or when you're working with a team and you find that stability in picking the same players very regularly, I think that's when you're in a happy place. But for most managers or teams in a process, which we are, you have to try and strive to find the right solution sometimes, and it means some change. But I trust all the players. We're working together to try and find the best in every area of the pitch, and naturally, as I say, there won't be many teams in the Premier League that probably can say we picked that back four, those back centre backs through a season. It's not really possible.
We spoke about Havertz and Werner. They're the two players we've seen the most in the Premier League this season. A couple of times they've been in their, say, favoured positions. Havertz against West Brom, I thought had a really good game. How do you think Ziyech and Pulisic, when they come back in, can affect those players and bring out the best in Havertz and Werner? Yeah,
I think they all will bring out the best in each other. Of course, it's a huge miss for us to not have Christian and Hakim fit at this stage of the season. We're all excited to start. Christian's been here for a year, so he doesn't have that bedding in process that was part of his early part last year. Hakim is going to bring something completely different for us, and I think they will help complement not just Kai and Timo, but the attacking players that we have, because again we will need to be able to use different players throughout the course of a season. But yeah, I'm very excited to have those players fit. The Timo and Kai don't have necessarily favoured positions themselves, but I have a clear idea of where I want them to play. At the moment, injuries have not made it that possible, and sometimes you have to be adaptable in those difficult times.
Nick Purell, PA.
Frank, just obviously with the thing with Jose, I know you're saying it's no big deal. He was suggesting that he was just trying to give you some advice, really, just saying that, you know, when a team's losing, that's when they need their manager to be, you know, I think visible on the touchline is kind of what he's suggesting. I know your relationship obviously changes because you're rivals now, but can you still take advice from other managers? Obviously he's got more experience than you. It doesn't mean he's a better manager than you, does it? But can you still take advantage from someone that you've had when the relationship changes?
I don't think any remarks made on the touchline during game can be called advice. I mean, they can probably be wrapped up as advice after a game when you managed to get back in the game and win on penalties. So I don't think that's the case. I would always be happy to not just take advice from fellow managers, but everything around me, whether it be my players, my staff, people that I respect, people that I listen to in football, outside football, in life. I think that's what moulds you as a manager. So I don't think the Jose incident was ever advice. Wasn't that?
Okay, last two, Nizar and then Ollie Harbold.
Hi Frank, thanks for your time. I just wanted to ask, there were some reports about Marcos Alonso in a half-time sort of, dressing down at West Brom. I wondered what you made of that, and I also wanted to know if, his long-term future or Emerson's long-term future is affected by any situation that might or might not have happened there.
Yeah, I'm not going to disclose what goes on in the dressing room. I think that would be wrong. So that was it. It was a game, obviously, we were disappointed to be 3-0 down at half-time. I had to make changes. And all I ask from all the players is that whatever, for good or for bad, that the players stick together in every moment, because that's the only thing that brings a successful group. So that's as much as I've got to say on it, and it doesn't affect anything ongoing. I don't have, cannot have grudges or feelings in games that carry on. We work, we're honest with each other, and we carry on working to get better and better. And things happen during the course of the season. They happen a lot.
Last question, Ollie Harbold.
Hi Frank, I just wanted to ask you about Billy Gilmore. It's been almost sort of 3 months since his surgery. How is he progressing, and do you see him having a key role when he comes back into the side?
Yeah, he's progressing well. It was forecast as a 4-month injury when he went into surgery. So like you say, it's 3 months. We're looking at about 4 weeks from now that he'll be hopefully fit, barring any hiccups, and it's been a difficult injury. So what I will say is that his attitude and how he approaches everything in his professional life is spot on. So he'll give himself the best chance to be back and as fresh as he can in hopefully 4 weeks. And yeah, he'll be an important member of the squad at that point. We all know his breakthrough last year and what he gave to the group, and we hope to see much more of that.
Kickoff is fast approaching. Chelsea won the last 5 meetings with Crystal Palace, and 3 points would certainly give us something to smile about, even if the weather hasn't for today. We're going to start with our one to watch for this afternoon. As you can hear, it's getting quite loud inside Stamford Bridge. So let's talk about a man that has been making a lot of shouting since he's joined. It's Thiago Silva. That is who our one to watch is for this afternoon. He is also the main feature of our Matchday programme today, which you can get delivered straight to your front door, even though fans aren't allowed into Stamford Bridge. Make sure you do that. They are $3.50 plus postage, or you can pay £80 for the whole season, and you can order yours from Reach Sports Shop now. The link is going around on the ticker below because I made a mess of that. In today's programme, right, Thiago Silva gives an exclusive with some very interesting comments. So he is our one to watch today. Here's what he said in the programme, right? Get a hold of this. I didn't come here to dine out in London or visit the tourist sites. I came to play football, to work, and that's what I'm preparing for. I'm certain with a group of players we've got and a coach who's a natural leader that will be in the fight for every piece of silverware going this year. Jay, that's exactly what you want to hear from a player of the calibre and the elite that Thiago Silva is. That kind of statement, that's not him just saying words. You know, he didn't need to do this, but he's done this, and this is why he's here.
Yeah, I think we've seen the Premier League where players perhaps have come to get their last pay packet, turned up at clubs and haven't really done it with the big reputation and perhaps their last big payday. Clearly, that's not his intentions whatsoever. Vastly experienced. He pretty much won everything, what he did over in Paris. The league itself over there, of course, in France is much slower. It's a different type of league. And maybe it might take him a little bit of time to get up to speed, but training every single day, the intensity, I'm sure, is going to be much quicker than what perhaps he's been used to. But he brings, we've spoken about this at length, Joe, haven't we? What he brings to the table, what he's going to bring to this dressing room. And I expected nothing less, in all honesty. And it's good to read. It's good to see that that's his intentions here. But he starts today, and it's interesting to see how him and Chilwell, that relationship. I expect him to start out on the left-hand side with Zuma playing on the right. So that relationship, really interesting to see how it develops alongside Kurt as well, of course.
Ben, Jay's made a great point there about how his sort of link-up and his cohesion with Ben Chilwell will be key. But also, having Thiago Silva and Cesar Azpilicueta in the back four, 2 big personalities, 2 captains, 2 leaders, that set Chelsea up nicely, won't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's very important because we got all these options. I was just saying to Matt Holland up on the gantry there, you ask 10 different Chelsea fans to pick their back four, I think you get 10 different answers. So that is obviously, as Jason will always say, that is why Frank gets paid the big bucks, and it is true. But, you know, he makes a lot of, week to week that happens, but you do need that leadership. And just something, I don't know if you might have touched on it earlier or not, but it's maybe only a little thing, but Frenchness. Ben Chilwell being the odd one out. Thiago Silva doesn't really speak much English yet. He's got Kurt Zuma next to him. Azpilicueta played in Marseille and speaks perfect French, and the new goalkeeper is obviously French. And I just wonder if that will help a little bit, the lingo there for all of them as a unit. Obviously, Ben Chilwell better get some CDs and get learning quickly online while he's stuck at home in between training sessions. But I think that might actually help him a little bit. I mean, he's had a momentary aberration in the West Brom game, Thiago Silva. But other than that, yes, you hope he brings a calmness as well as quality defending. But the communication, I think, is a big part of it.
Ben, that's a great point. And Ben, Ben Chilwell's not listening, but I've been pro on Duolingo learning Spanish the last couple of months, so can always dip in and help out if you need anything. Abby, that's a great point that Ben's made about that, because it's not something, to be honest with you, that I'd even registered or clocked at. But Thiago Silva's not been here long, so you know it's still going to take time for him to adapt and still going to take time for him to sort of bed into the squad. But knowing that he's come here with only football intentions, as a fan, you love to hear that, don't you?
Oh, you love to hear it. Such a statement of intent, and especially coming from someone like him, a footballer with some serious credentials, like that only fares well for Chelsea. And silverware, we'll take that, won't we?
Let's have a look at our next hot topic, our hot topic 2 for this afternoon, which is transfer window closing. Dan, it's been a busy window for Chelsea, a very successful window, and I know we spoke about this again in the Spurs game, but you see teams scrabbling around still to do business, still trying to find those pieces of the jigsaw. We've got the jigsaw, it's just unfortunately it's all still in the box at the moment. We're waiting for the pieces to get fit again. But it's nice to know, to be sitting here a couple of days before the window saying if we don't make another move, if nothing happens, then we're good, we're set. If there is moves, if there is something that happens, it's not something that we're sort of desperate and sort of scrabbling around last minute to try and find.
Yeah, I'm happy with the business we've done. We did it quite early, so it's weird. It almost seems like whoever does the business later on in the window seems to win the transfer window by having this kind of big announcement. But I'm very happy with all the signings that we've made. I'm very, very comfortable. If there's not any more ins and outs, I'm happy. There's obviously whispers, but until it's confirmed, it's not confirmed. So it's just one of those things. I'm happy. I feel like we've got a squad that is able, when everyone's fit and we've kind of had our gelling process, definitely able to compete on all fronts.
Ben, I imagine in the past you've had deadline days where you're stuck outside in the freezing cold in the rain at 11 o'clock and you're still waiting for something to happen. Hopefully a quieter one for us this window. Do you expect much to happen?
Me, I'm not overly sure, to be honest. I mean, like you've just been saying there, Dan, I mean, if there's something out, then maybe there's something in. But right now, I would imagine that there is the balance you want if, I don't know, people are talking about Jorginho. If that goes, does that leave a little hole in central midfield in terms of genuine numbers there? Billy Gilmore's still not fit yet. Maybe. My other thought would be about the attacking wide men and attacking midfielders. There's a lot of them to the where if everyone's fit, clearly they can't all play, but I don't think they can even all get on the bench. And that might be a bit of an issue. That's a balancing job for Frank. You think Pulisic back in, especially, by the way, if Timo Werner is going to keep on or with any regularity play from this wide left position, that's another one of them gone. You've got Pulisic, you've got Ziyech, you've got Callum, you've got Timo Werner, you've got Mason Mount. Who have I forgotten? There's probably another one in there somewhere. And, you know, Callum Hudson-Odoi. There's a lot there, isn't there? And there's a lot of very good, talented players. You think they're very good and are very good at football, and a lot of them are going to miss out every week. And I just wonder if there might be an out there.
Of course, every player always wants to play. A player that we know is definitely not going anywhere, and he is the focus of Jason's Matchday Live analysis this week. It's club captain Cesar Azpilicueta.
Let's have a look at our captain and longest-serving player, Azpilicueta. Had a huge hand in the goal, massive. Closed down, Reguilon wins the ball, doesn't stop there. Now he's got to compose himself. No one in the box yet. Cuts back, sends Reguilon sliding on his backside. Now he picks out a Chelsea player over you, Timo Werner, and finishes the job. Even though the emergence of Reece James and the signing of Ben Chilwell, Azpi, who's obviously a right-back who can play left or play centre-half, he is not going to give up those shirts without a fight, that's for sure. Probably our most competitive player still in the squad, and the young players will look up to that. Here's him taking responsibility. No one in the box, there's no movement. He's had a strike, this time was off target, but it's his competitive edge and his determination still that I think is the one thing that he really does bring to this dressing room. And as I said there, these younger players that have signed for Chelsea and come in for Chelsea will look up to him. The determination etched all over his face here as he took the penalty is there for everyone to see, and also what it meant to him to score. Took responsibility, brilliant penalty. Skipper as well, leading by example, and the young lads are very lucky to have someone like him in the changing room.
Says Azpilicueta, just setting the tempo, setting the tone. He's one of those players, isn't he, Abby, that you just, as a Chelsea fan, when you see someone that clearly has such adoration and love for the club, when you see him wearing the armband, when you see him on the pitch, he's someone that you want to do well, and he's so reliable. We're so often seeing him do well.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the best things about him. He's so proud to be a Chelsea player, and he's, as you say, always reliable. When you see him on the lineup, you're just like, I think we're going to be okay. He's a very good leader like that.
Incredible. And Dan, we saw that impact, didn't we, at half-time last week when he came on against West Brom. The intensity and the tenacity that he brings. As a captain, he does really set a tempo on and off the pitch.
Yeah, he does. You can tell he's a leader. He's one of those defenders that doesn't enjoy being beat. He really wants to do the right thing, safety first, be in the right positions. So when he's on a pitch, I mean, we've got a very young squad, loads of 21 and 22-year-olds. You need that experience. He brings plenty of it.
Well, it's important actually to reference that, because he does bring experience. But also, we're going on to our hot topic 3 for today, which is defensive options. And Jay, that's exactly it. You know, Cesar Azpilicueta starting at right back today. Reece James has started a couple earlier in the season. We've seen the centre half pairing again, like Ben alluded to a minute ago. You could ask 10 Chelsea fans and they come up with 10 different centre half partnerships. We've got so many options there. Do you think as a defender, as a player that's sort of played at the highest level, do you want that consistency, or does it keep you on top of your game knowing that it can change week to week?
You need options. You need there to be a squad deep enough to deal with suspensions, injuries, maybe a Carabao Cup game as well. But I think the one thing that you look at, the fact that you can't name Chelsea's back four tells you that Frank isn't happy or hasn't had that settled back four that he used to. We could all name Liverpool's back four, couldn't we? He couldn't name Chelsea's back four. And I think that's been a little bit of an issue. I'd like to see that Aspie's not going to give up that right back. Reece has come in and emerged, and he is the future. And Chilwell has come in, and Aspie can play in both positions. I tell you now, they're not going to get that shirt unless they fight for it. And Aspie's not going to give up without a fight. He's fiercely competitive. So we need that. We need options. You need versatility. You need to be able to go to 3 if the system needs to be changed, or maybe there's a substitution, or maybe a sending off. But over the course of the season, you're going to need that. But I'd love to see a settled back four as we move into November.
Frank has said that, hasn't he? He said that's the development process. And there's not a lot of teams, like you alluded to Liverpool there. They're kind of, I suppose, the benchmark that teams look at. You know, you look across the league. Manchester City are having a similar sort of question. You look at any of the other big teams, even Manchester United, that have done a lot of business trying to solidify that back four. That is something to look across. Abby, I wonder if the app comments have kind of sort of alluded to that as well, that there is so much options, so many different players that can be selected, and all can add something completely different.
Yeah, people are definitely talking about the options available, and Chilwell is particularly popular. Kes thinks Chilwell's a great left back. Salah says he can chill with Chilwell, which I think is catchy. Get that on a t-shirt. Get on a t-shirt while you can. He said there's no need to panic when you see him playing and he's in your defence. Adelina thinks Chilwell has potential to be one of the best defenders, not just in the league, but in the world. I mean, it's quite a statement, isn't it? But it's nice to see the fans are super excited about him.
I've heard the marketing department are going to be on to you at half time of it to try and get that t-shirt sorted, because that's a great idea. There's a little stocking filler for you towards Christmas. Dan, but that's exactly right, isn't it? You know, Ben Chilwell's the one that's coming in, and you know he'll look to make that left back berth his own. But you've got Cesar Azpilicueta that can play both sides. Reece James obviously missing out today, is on the bench, but he's another one. Like Jason said, you know, you've got players that are not going to want to be sitting on the bench. They're going to be wanting to make an impact. And if Frank's laid that question down to say, look, here's the players you've got around you, and make that spot your own, that can only be a good thing going forward.
100%. And especially at right back, I was actually a little bit surprised to see Aspie, because although he does bring loads of experience and loads of know-how, I have a feeling that Zaha's going to try and pull over to the left and play over there. And I thought he might try and match Reece James up with him just as on a physical one-to-one. We know Reece James can do that job very well. So it's great to have the options, and you know that if for whatever reason there is a problem on that side of the pitch, you know that Reece James is there. But Frank does love it. He loves the horses for courses. I'm not sure if he loves it, but he has it. And he knows that when there's certain players with certain attributes, you want to nullify them by playing certain players against them. So
just on that, Dan, that becomes Zuma's job now, because if there is an isolation, if you do get Zaha 1v1 with Aspie, of all the things Aspie's got, once Zaha knocks it past him, it's a foot race. There's only going to be one winner. Zuma has got to make sure he has got an eye on that. He cannot leave him isolated.
Well, yeah, it's a good point, mate. It's a good point. It's a question that perhaps Wilfred Zaha will be asking, but won't be asking our manager. Here is what Frank Lampard had to say this week. What was on his mind in Ask Frank?
Great to see Ben Chilwell fit. What does he bring to the side and the way that you like to play?
Well, I think we saw some of the aspects of what Ben will bring us in the game against Tottenham. A very good performance from him in terms of joining in and going forward. I think he's very comfortable on the ball. He covers a lot of ground at very high intensity, and joining in with attacks with the ability to obviously do his first job, which is defending, and to defend well, and I think he showed both sides of his game against Tottenham, and that's considering he's been out for quite a while. It's quite a nasty injury which he's worked very hard to get over, so it was a really good start for him, and we'll see a lot more of that.
And with the roles of your fullbacks, when you say you're bombing forward as well, how much onus does that then have on the centre-backs in your formation?
I think it has onus on the team, and it has onus on the centre-backs and the midfield players as well. We have to have an awareness of balance of the team. If our fullbacks are joining in, which we can do on both sides, we have to have balance centrally with the midfield, and vice versa. Sometimes the fullback will have to balance off against the midfield. So it's things we work on in training all the time. But what is good is when you have players with the capabilities of players like Ben, that can do the join in with attacks, but also have the mindset and the physical abilities to do their first job, which will always be defensively.
We've seen Aspie heavily involved in recent weeks. How has his role evolved this season, do you think?
Well, Aspie's Aspie. He's the leader of the group, fantastic professional every day. We know that with Reece in that position, he has really good competition there, because Reece is bringing that as well. So he never changes Aspie. He's a dream for me as a manager, as captain of the club, because he's a symbol of it, and he shows that in everything he does.
Difficult for Mason, obviously, to miss that penalty against Spurs midweek, but what does it say about his character that he was willing to put himself in that position in the first place?
Everything. It says everything about his character, because it's I've seen his character whilst I've been here, whilst I was at Derby with him, and not just his character but his quality. And I prefer a lad that says, yep, I'll take penalty number 5 when some might not want that, than someone who doesn't and hides away and doesn't ever put themselves in the line of fire as such. So Mason will put himself in the line of fire every day. He is, and is going to be, a huge player for this club for a long, long time, because of his talents and his attitude. Simple as that.
And a word on his work ethic as well, and some of the work he does off the ball that I guess would sometimes go unnoticed.
Well, if it does, then it should be noticed, because it's a huge part of what we became last year, because last year people didn't expect probably some of the things that we gave through the year in terms of our league position, and in terms of some of the bigger performances we put in against top teams, where you have to be impeccable off the ball to stop teams playing. And Mason is always at the front line of that, in terms of the energy he expels in the midfield areas and forward areas to try and win the ball back. It might not reflect in the action that he does, it certainly can reflect in the 1, 2 or 3 times later than that when the team follow him in.
We are seeing players return to full fitness. With that in mind, how are Hakim and Christian Pulisic progressing?
They're progressing. Christian Pulisic is in the squad for Crystal Palace, which is great news. It's a frustrating injury for him again, and we're all frustrated that we haven't been able to use him yet. So it's brilliant that he can be back in. How many minutes he'll play, we'll have to be a bit careful with, considering we'll then have 2 weeks to the next game. And Hakim Ziyech is slightly behind that. It's a different injury, and to give him that little bit more time. So not ready for the weekend, but he'll be ready after that.
How hard is it to manage players' expectations? Because I guess they want to be playing as soon as humanly possible, don't they?
Yeah, it's difficult, and with those two, they're for different reasons. They both can't wait to go. I can't wait to have them involved. I have a feeling about how I want us to go this year, and when you start the season, we don't have them two are very pivotal to our forward play, and even in different areas of the pitch, we haven't had maybe players fit or either injured or sort of match fit. So I think once we can have that full squad, they'll be eager, they have to be competitive, they can't play every game, everybody, but I think we're going to have a squad that we can really, really build on this season and try and improve, as I keep saying.
Can you empathise with that as a player as well? Because I guess when you were younger, you were trying to sort of get back from injuries as well. Difficult to sometimes see, I guess, the bigger picture, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very difficult, and I empathise and I respect it. Someone like Christian, who's always so desperate to get back playing because he loves it and he wants input, he wants to show what he can do. I certainly was like that. I'd much rather have that than a player that puts his feet up and takes his time. So we've got that driven nature within the group. We've got a fantastic medical department. We push to try and get players back when we can, and sometimes it's through bad fortune or the modern game that means you have problems. Most teams have them, but with Christian and Hakim, we're going to have 2 really important offensive players back for us.
A word on Crystal Palace, early days this season of course, but have you been surprised with what you've seen from Roy Hodgson's side?
No, I expect them always to be very difficult to play against. The result they got at Manchester United was typical of how organised they are and how many threats they have in attack. He's a great manager, some really good players and great structures to the way they play. It'll be a very tough match for us.
Jason's gone to get ready to do a few stretches, a few vocal exercises and a scarf today, I'd imagine. But here is what Frank Lampard has selected for his starting 11 against Crystal Palace today. Edouard Mendy makes his Premier League debut. Cesar Azpilicueta captains the side. Thiago Silva and Kurt Zouma in the back four, alongside another debutant in Ben Chilwell making his Premier League first appearance for Chelsea today. N'Golo Kanté, Jorginho, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Kai Havertz, Timo Werner and Tammy Abraham. On the bench for Chelsea today, Kepa Arrizabalaga, Christian Pulisic back in the squad, Fikayo Tomori, Mateo Kovacic, Olivier Giroud, Mason Mount and Reece James. Abby, we're getting closer to kickoff. You keep telling me that you're getting a little bit nervous now. I'm feeling it, but that's what we like to feel though ahead of a derby day, don't we? We like to feel those nerves and those excitement just building.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a derby unless you got that sudden rush of nerves just kind of hit you in the face just before the game. I think I was quite overly confident, and yeah, I'm getting that last minute rush that you get just before the game. But I'm still feeling confident. I think we can do this and get the 3 points.
Exactly, spot on. Dan, who needs a big performance today, mate? Quickly from you.
I think we all do. I can't think of many big performances this season. I think we all need to put a shift in, work hard, earn the right to play football. We've got more quality than them all over the pitch. It will count.
Love that. Good work, mate. Right, we are just minutes away from kickoff. Up next, it's live commentary from Stamford Bridge, where Jason will be joined by Ben Andrews. Enjoy the game, and we will see you at half time.